I started my Amazon journey about 6 years ago, actually. And before that, I've done a bunch of different international businesses. I've been an expat for 20 years. So my husband and I have been living abroad, and I was never a good employee to begin with, but it was the perfect recipe for me to be an entrepreneur and just do whatever businesses I could wherever we ended up being. So 6 years ago was when I took training on how to become an Amazon seller, an FBA private label seller. And I still remember the ads because it was all it really was how to sell on Amazon or how to sell products online. There was no differentiating between the different ways that you can actually do that. So everybody jumped on board, myself included, thinking that this is the only option, right? And there were no other options that were presented at the time. And I imagine if I'd done some digging on my own, I might have found some. But you're just so excited at the possibility of this idea. And so I ended up taking the course, and I never actually finished it. This is one of those courses that I bought and started and finished because you get so busy and you go off in a bunch of different directions at certain times. And so I certainly carried on and finished as far as the business goes. But yeah, so I unfortunately did not choose wisely on my first product, and it was not an out of the gate success as I had greatly hoped it was going to be. But during the course of those 6 years, I ended up creating 3 different brands and bringing dozens actually of products to market during that time. And some were winners and some were not. And you just have to roll with it and learn based on the numbers and what's happening and be able to make changes and pivot. And what ended up happening in the beginning of 2020, I had wound down a few of my product lines, and I was just sticking with my core product at that point that I'd had for a number of years, which was a backpack, a really great backpack for women that had a whole bunch of accessories in there. And it was great. And it kept getting iterated and changed slightly every time I went to manufacture to production. And in January of 2020, my suppliers were shut down due to COVID in China. And there was a long period of time where they were shut and there was just nothing was happening. So I found myself in the position for the first time in 4 or 5 years that I actually had time to read a bunch of those emails that were coming into my inbox all the time because there's so many of them. But anyway, I read those several that came in there that were talking to me about information products and running virtual challenges and just a whole other side to online business that I had no knowledge. I had a little knowledge of, but not a lot because you're so busy when you're doing private label. There's just no time.
That's literally just one of more than a dozen different ways that you can actually leverage the power of the Amazon name and brand.
Definitely.
You just happen to choose to dive in the deep end with the toughest one.
Exactly, Jody. Thanks for pointing that out. You're exactly right. Because there are many ways that you can sell on Amazon. And one of the best ways, in fact, is a slight deviation from that. It still enables you to sell an actual physical product. But if you become a wholesaler and find a product that is doing well already on the platform and go to the manufacturer of that product and negotiate a deal so that you can become a reseller of that product, you can actually get on there with it. And the great thing about this model is that it is really, really low time and money startup. You don't need all that cash and time to waste to go to China, find your manufacturer, get the product run, make sure the sample's right, ship it over, go through the importing and the customs and send it in and all of that. And then you're still not sure if it's still going to be a go, because how much time does that take? A lot. It takes several months in most cases. And with going this wholesale route, what you're doing is you're bypassing that altogether because you've just identified a product that's already selling really well, that already meets your criteria, whatever that might be, right, for profitability that you've predetermined. And you can be up and running in a matter of even a week. Couple of weeks anyway is a really good fair estimation. And this kind of thing happens all the time. It might sound strange to somebody who's not in the e-commerce world, but businesses, this happens all the time. It's a normal business as a strategy. And it's a great way to, like you say, to leverage the Amazon name because, wow, there's so much credibility there. And if somebody can buy something on Amazon instead of a different platform, there's just the trust and the quick delivery and all of that makes it so viable, such a great choice. So
for all the hours and money that you went into your private label, do you have sort of a direct experience of knowing sort of how much quicker and easier or less time input the wholesale model has? Or are you just sort of like, did you decide to go into it, or are you looking at more of your exit strategy? You've done your Amazon time and it's time to sell out.
Yeah, for me, I did actually decide to exit my Amazon private label journey because, and actually it was because of seeing how viable the wholesale side really is. That once you realize how much easier the whole entire process is by going the wholesale route, by being a reseller of an existing product, an existing brand, it doesn't make sense. And unless it doesn't make sense for you to go the private label route and spend all that extra money and spend all that extra time on the hope that all the research and everything you did was correct and that those market conditions still exist when you finally get that product to market. Like, there's so many risks that you just don't know until you go through that cycle. And especially once you wind up on the wrong end of it, which happens. And it happens to everybody too, by the way. Nobody can say what's going to be the hit for the product. And there's still the element that you just don't know if it's going to actually work, because you don't know if the market will change by the time yours gets into inventory and by the time you get it ranked, so people actually see it and start buying it. You don't know if you're going to get a bad lot if your manufacturer has cut corners on one of the parts of it. You've got, a broken buckle, like happened to me on my backpack for a couple of runs, and that's just, that's so hard to recover from. There's things like that quality issues, and that you have no way of knowing until you go through it. And even once you do, you can still get a left fielder. Whereas if you've gone this other route and you identify a product that already exists, that's already being manufactured, and another company is already going through that quality control procedure to make sure that it's made correctly, you're just sliding yourself in there into an already proven system, and you can just be swimming downstream with, instead of going upstream and fighting against all these other unknowns, that many of which you have no way of knowing until you come up against it. And that's the hard thing. You just got to be able to roll with these challenges, right?
So it makes sense though, like you come to sort of a fork in the road where there are big buyers at the moment, like literally buying up anything to do with Amazon stores. So I've got a next question about the possible wholesale side of that, but just your decision at the moment based on that fork in the road, which path do you take?
In negotiations right now to sell my Amazon store, because it's an older store, and there are many things. I don't know all the reasons why, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that people who are interested in buying don't want us to know all the reasons why, and that's fine. If there's value there and it's something that I'm not going to use or capitalize on, absolutely, why not? Because going forward and looking at getting into the wholesale side of Amazon, you can do that with a brand new account and be fine and up and running. It's a little bit of value sitting there that I think that I could capitalize on a lot better in another area. So for me, I'm definitely going to move away from that account that I have now. And if I decide that I want to do something in the future with it, then I certainly can, and just start a new one.
Do you think that in the current environment where 2020 just saw e-commerce explode, because of how everybody has been forced to shop online? I mean, it wasn't even a choice type of thing. It was like everyone's been forced to shop online. So the opportunity for people to still get in and become sellers, do you think a wholesaler has the ability to sell their business as well as, say, like a private label store?
Yes, I do, actually. I mean, it would probably be to a completely different customer, though, because most private label stores would be going to somebody who wants to scale and add more product lines to that brand. But if you have a wholesale business and you've got a couple of products in there, whether they're from the same manufacturer or other ones, you could literally turn over the reins. I mean, there are people who are actually building wholesale businesses just to sell them. And that would be like at a different level, right? From a brand business, from a private label side of it. But absolutely. Though that's a very, very sellable model. And a person might even argue that it might be more sellable because it's at a completely different price point.
Outside of going through this negotiation right now, any other wins for 2020?
Well, definitely. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't put that one into the group of being one of the big wins at all. It's just some little nice little bonus that I hadn't even planned on, you know. But for me, it's having found a new space in uh, more of the creative side of how to help people to find their way in online business. This has been so rewarding, and I've enjoyed the change and the growth and the new direction that it's taken me in. But another great thing is that a result of this whole entire journey has been a private label product that I've created, that I've got a patent on, and is just about ready to start getting produced. And hopefully, I don't know, what depends on what's going to continue to happen here this year with COVID, but the plan is to get it rolled out to supply outfits in the States, probably later this year. So
That's in the medical field, though. It is
it
actually
is,
for
yes, it's
helping.
medical supply. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I'm planning to get it into the medical supply stores or facilities in the States and go directly to manufacturers of the product that it was made for. Because Amazon, yeah, it's leveraging their name is fabulous. But yeah, when it's your own brand, I don't know, you've got more options, I guess. That's what I want to say. And
What's really fascinating is that, I don't know, 6 years ago, did you ever think that you would actually be taking a patented
yeah,
product that you designed into medical retail?
yeah,
Was
I
that
certainly
ever
did.
an idea?
Definitely not. Although I can say, as a young person growing up, I had many ideas through my life that I thought, oh, that's $1 million idea. I got to get that going. And it's great that you know, in this day and age, you've got the ability to maybe take it forward and do market research and see if there's a market for it. But yeah, I certainly didn't know. And that's one thing that has been wonderful in these last 6 years, being dedicated exclusively to online business, is just everything that you learn. And Amazon has been part of that for me. And I'm just so glad now that, like, because I have a lot of friends and associates who come to me and want to know, you know, what do you think now? I see you've made a change. What are you doing? And what should I do? And by and far, the number one thing I recommend to almost everybody is wholesaling on Amazon, because it just makes the most sense. But mostly because it's something that most people can do, and you probably
Is it
can actually.
enough paint by numbers? Like, it literally is a step-by-step paint by numbers type of experience, like going into the world of Amazon?
Yes, it is. And without all that extraneous, you know, left fielders, and because it's such a great opportunity to be able to slide yourself into something you can see today is already succeeding, and be able to get part of that just with a very small amount of effort. And the other thing too is, once you get a few products set up as a wholesaler, they don't require that much actual time and maintenance. And that's the beauty of it. When you're doing private label, it never ends, believe me. And you're only limited by how many people you're going to have helping you work on that business. With wholesale, you totally can do it yourself. It'd be great if you got you know, some help as well, and got some virtual assistants too. Don't get me wrong, and it'll help you scale and grow and get more and more products under your belt. But it's totally a doable thing. You know, there's a lot of people who would just like another couple of grand a month, or maybe 5 grand a month, or 10 grand a month, and that's great. And you can do that. And once you build that up, you just maintain it, literally with those few hours a week, like literally, not the Lambo guy with the stacks of cash in front of the oceanfront villa saying it's only going to take a couple hours a week and $1,000.
Well, it's not just literally a few hours a week. It's literally anywhere in the world as well, because it is,
Exactly,
because
Jody.
you're a middleman, because
Yeah,
you are not needing to fly to China or do this or that. You are just emailing or on the phone. You can
yeah,
be
it's
anywhere.
true. I think I'm just talking myself into it all. I'm going to go because it just makes sense.
Love it. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time, your wisdom, like everything. Like I said, it's pretty amazing that over the last 6 years, this journey that you've gone on has taken you on a roller coaster, obviously, but to be able to stand here now and say that, you know, Amazon is a great place to start if you follow the one that makes the most sense, is wholesale.
I definitely think so. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.